The night Manhattan glowed its brightest was the night Lucas Ellison dimmed his own life without realizing it. He stepped out of the Ritz-Carlton, adjusting his cufflinks with the careless ease of a man who believed consequences were for other people. Beside him, Brooke, his hidden indulgence, pressed a kiss to his jaw before sliding into a waiting town car. Lucas smirked, checking his iPhone, confident Harper would be asleep, curled up the way she always was, these days pregnant, exhausted, dependent. He loved that word, dependent. It made everything feel safe, manageable. As he rode the elevator up to the 65th floor penthouse, Lucas rehearsed the lie he planned to tell his wife. A late meeting, traffic, maybe a broken elevator. Harper rarely questioned him now. She was too overwhelmed, too focused on the baby. She needed stability, and he needed freedom. To him, that felt like balance. But the moment he unlocked the front door, a strange stillness met him, too wide, too hollow, too intentional. No soft glow from the hallway lamp. No hum of the air purifier Harper insisted on running at night. No faint lavender scent from her prenatal pillow spray. The silence swallowed him whole. "Harper?" he called, forcing his tone into a casual drawl. Nothing answered. Not footsteps, not a tired voice, not even an echo. A tight pulse began behind his ribs as he stepped deeper inside. The living room, meticulously curated by Harper months earlier, looked stripped, cold, depleted. Pillows gone, photos missing, drawers slightly ajar. It felt less like a home and more like the aftermath of an evacuation. He swallowed hard. No, Harper wouldn't leave. She had nowhere to go, no job, no friends close enough to call, no family. He'd made sure of that, or so he believed. But something was wrong, very wrong. He moved down the hallway, heart thudding now, until he reached the nursery door. It was open. Inside stood the crib, the only thing left in the entire room, empty except for a single envelope resting in the center. His name written in Harper's handwriting. In that instant, Lucas finally felt something he never expected. Fear. Lucas stared at the envelope resting in the crib, but he couldn't bring himself to touch it. Instead, he stepped back into the hallway, suddenly desperate to prove to himself more than anyone that this wasn't real. Harper couldn't have left, not her. Not the woman who apologized when he forgot their anniversary. Not the woman who whispered, "I'm sorry," during arguments, even when the fault was his. He stormed into the primary bedroom. The moment he opened the closet, the lie he'd been clinging to disintegrated. Her clothes gone. Her shoes gone. Even the soft blue maternity sweater she wore every morning gone. Only his side remained untouched. The imbalance looked violent. He yanked open her dresser drawers. Empty. Each one, as if she had vacuumed her existence out of the penthouse. A faint indentation on the dresser showed where her jewelry box once sat. He gave a humorless laugh. She only owned 3 pieces. He had convinced her designer jewelry was a waste when they needed to save for the baby. Meanwhile, he'd bought Brooke a diamond anklet last week at Tiffany's. He turned toward the bathroom. The mirror fog still clung faintly to its edges from Harper's last shower. It made his chest tighten unexpectedly. On her side of the sink, the counter was spotless. Her skincare bottles, prenatal vitamins, the gentle lavender cleanser she loved gone. Only his electric razor and cologne remained, cold and accusing. Lucas checked her phone charger. Missing. Her worn paperback copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves, the one she reread at night, missing. Her MacBook Air missing. She planned this. Carefully. Quietly. His phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. Had fun tonight. Don't forget we're meeting at Cartier tomorrow. He silenced the screen instantly. That message suddenly felt radioactive. He made his way to the kitchen next. The refrigerator, once filled with nutrient-packed meals Harper prepared weekly, was nearly empty. Only a half-finished bottle of sparkling water sat on the shelf. The counter, normally scattered with prenatal supplements and soft granola bars, was bare. But something caught his eye. A stack of neatly folded documents, held down by his Montblanc pen, one Harper wasn't supposed to know he owned, because he'd claimed it was too expensive for their budget. The papers weren't divorce forms. Not yet. They were financial statements, printed from his office accounts. Restricted access files. Files Harper should never have been able to obtain. His throat tightened. He didn't dare read further. Not now. Not alone in a house that suddenly felt hostile. A wave of panic hit him, not just emotional, but primal. Harper was pregnant, 6 months, vulnerable, fragile, a woman who needed stability. She couldn't just disappear like this. Not without help. His mind jumped to dark possibilities. Had someone taken her? Did she collapse somewhere? Had she done something extreme? His breathing grew uneven. He gripped the counter to steady himself. No. Stop. Harper wouldn't hurt herself or the baby. She was scared of escalators when she was alone. There was no way she would run off blindly into the night. Which meant something worse. Something deliberate. Something planned. Lucas forced himself back to the nursery. The crib stood like a monument of accusation. The envelope waited exactly where she'd left it, centered with precision. Harper always aligned things perfectly when she was deeply upset. He finally picked it up. His name Lucas, written in her steady handwriting. Not angry, not shaking. Calm, resolved. Done. He slid his thumb under the seal. And the moment the paper tore, he knew. Whatever was inside would destroy him. Lucas held the torn envelope as if it were something fragile, something that might explode if handled the wrong way. But instead of reading the letter, he set it down on the edge of the crib and stepped back. He suddenly needed air. Space. Something to anchor him. Yet every room he walked into pushed him deeper into panic. He returned to the primary bedroom one more time, searching for any sign, any clue that Harper might still come home, that this was some emotional spiral he could fix with a well-timed apology and a promise he had no intention of keeping. But the room refused to offer comfort. Her side of the bed was stripped bare, the maternity pillow missing. The gentle, lavender-scented blanket she slept with was gone, replaced by cold, untouched sheets. He sat on the edge of the mattress, but the silence was too loud, so he shot to his feet again, pacing. Something caught his eye. A faint square imprint on the wall shelf above her dresser. Her photo frame, the only one she kept of her mother, whom she lost at 15, gone. Lucas rubbed his temples. She wouldn't take that unless she planned to disappear for more than a night. That was the first sign he couldn't ignore. He moved into the hallway, then to the laundry room. Empty baskets, missing detergent bottles. Even her soft cotton maternity robe washed every week wasn't hanging in its usual place. Harper didn't just leave. She scrubbed herself out of this home. His heart pounded faster. He rushed to the living room again, this time noticing something he'd missed earlier. The built-in bookshelf. She had taken her books, but only hers. The architecture texts, the design albums she used to study at night, her old notebooks from college. Every trace of Harper's mind, her ambitions, her dreams, they were gone. Only his scattered business journals remained, stacked carelessly as always. The imbalance made his stomach twist. He walked toward her workspace, a small corner of the penthouse she carved out for herself, even when he insisted space was limited. The desk was empty, except for one object she had deliberately left behind. Her broken iPad. The one Lucas smashed in anger 2 months ago. Seeing it now hit him harder than he expected. A physical reminder of every heated moment, every dismissal, every time he made Harper apologize for his temper. A cold realization dripped down his spine. Maybe she didn't leave because he cheated. Maybe she left because she finally believed he'd never stop hurting her. His throat tightened. He opened the drawer under the desk, expecting it to be empty, but instead found a small stack of papers held by a binder clip. He pulled it out, confused. They were printouts of his text messages, calls, hotel receipts, calendar invites, all tied to Brooke. Harper had documented everything, not in anger, not in haste, but meticulously like evidence. His stomach dropped. This wasn't just a goodbye. It was an indictment. He rushed back toward the nursery, pulse thundering in his ears. His fingers trembled as he picked up the letter again. This time, he forced himself to unfold it, but the moment his eyes hit the first line, his breath stalled. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't an emotional plea. It wasn't even written for him. It was written like she expected the letter to be read by someone else. Someone with authority. Someone she trusted more than him. His vision blurred for a second, because the final sentence before the page ended read, "By the time you discover this, I will already be somewhere you can't reach, and someone will know everything you've done." Lucas's knees nearly buckled. Harper wasn't running. She was preparing to fight. Lucas stood in the center of the nursery for several seconds, gripping the letter like it might anchor him. But the longer he held it, the more unbearable it felt. He set it back down on the crib mattress, pacing the room as if movement could reverse whatever had already happened. The penthouse felt unfamiliar now, each breath inside it sharp, cold, wrong. As he moved from room to room, a new detail struck him each time, each one cutting deeper than the last. Down the hall, he entered the guest bedroom. Harper rarely touched this space, but she always kept it tidy in case his parents visited. Now the bed was stripped, the drawers empty, the lamp missing. She had taken it. The cheap lamp she bought during her first year in New York, a lamp she refused to throw away even when they could afford crystal chandeliers. He didn't understand why this bothered him more than the empty closet. Maybe because it wasn't valuable, it wasn't replaceable, it was sentimental, and she took it because it mattered to her, not to him. He turned toward the small storage room next. Harper kept her architectural models there, little cardboard buildings she crafted late at night while he watched financial news in the living room. They used to argue about the clutter. He'd tell her to focus on more practical things. Tonight, the room was stripped bare. Every model gone, only dust outlined where her creations once stood. The sight hit him harder than he expected. She took her dreams with her. His throat tightened. Lucas moved downstairs to the private office, his sanctuary, or what used to be. His desk drawer, always locked, was still locked. But on top of the desk sat something he hadn't left there, a small flash drive. Next to it, a sticky note in Harper's handwriting. "Check your accounts. You'll understand why I left." His stomach lurched. He didn't check. Not yet. He couldn't handle two shocks in the same hour. He walked back to the living room, breath shaky. The skyline outside the floor-to-ceiling windows glittered, but even Manhattan looked colder tonight, almost mocking. Then he noticed it, something he had missed earlier. Harper's wedding ring. It sat alone on the marble coffee table. No note, no explanation, just the ring. She had never taken it off, not even when they argued, not even when he humiliated her for overreacting to the hotel charge she found last spring. Seeing it alone on the table made something inside him twist painfully. He sank onto the couch, but the space beside him felt too empty, like the cushions themselves rejected him. His mind raced, grasping for ways to undo this. He could call her, beg, promise change, cry if he had to. He pulled out his phone. No missed calls, no texts. Her number blocked. Blocked. That word hit him like a blow to the ribs. He dialed anyway. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail, not hers, but an automated system telling him the number was no longer in service. She changed her number. Harper never did anything impulsively. If she changed her number, she wasn't coming back. A sudden panic flooded him, not anger, not guilt, but fear. Real fear, not of losing her, but of losing control. He stood abruptly, unable to stay still, and marched back to the nursery. The letter waited patiently, as if it knew he'd return. Lucas picked it up again, his hands finally steady enough to open it. And as he unfolded the paper, one thought chilled him to the bone. Harper didn't just leave him, she outplayed him. Lucas unfolded the letter with the stiffness of a man preparing for impact. The paper wasn't torn or rushed. Harper's handwriting flowed across the page in neat lines, steady and heartbreakingly calm. There was no ink blotch, no trembling strokes, just clarity. "Lucas, by the time you read this, I'll be somewhere safe. Somewhere you can't reach. Somewhere our child will be wanted." His breath caught. The word "our" sliced him open in a way he didn't expect. He kept reading. "I didn't leave because of your affair. I left because you ended our marriage long before you ever touched her. You ended it the day you taught me I was disposable." Lucas frowned, jaw tightening. Disposable? He gave her everything, a penthouse, a comfortable life, stability. She should have been grateful. But her next line hit him harder. "You stopped seeing me. You stopped hearing me. And then you stopped respecting me." The cheating was just the first thing I could prove. The first thing? What else did she think she could prove? His pulse quickened. He forced his eyes down the page. "For months, I begged for small things. Your time, your presence, your kindness. You gave none of them." He exhaled through his teeth, irritated. Harper always dramatized things. She was too emotional, too sensitive. "But then, you cut my access to money. You cut my insurance. You cut my autonomy. And then you cut my dignity. I won't let you cut our child's future." That line punched him square in the chest. Insurance? She found out? He swallowed hard, throat dry. He kept reading. I know about the accounts. I know about the transfers. I know about the lies you told your company. And I know what will happen when someone else finds out, too. Lucas froze. Transfers? Accounts? She couldn't possibly know. He had hidden everything. Password protected. Restricted folders. Private devices. No way she got access. No way she... Then his eyes found the next line. You forgot one thing, Lucas. A woman doesn't have to be powerful to be smart. She only has to be tired. And I was tired enough to pay attention. His stomach twisted violently. She knew, or at least she suspected, and suspicion alone could ruin everything. His fingers tightened around the page. I'm not asking you to change. I no longer need anything from you. Not love, not money, not forgiveness, nothing. A ringing filled his ears. He flipped to the second page with trembling hands. Someone will contact you in the next few days. Be respectful. They're helping me rebuild a life you tried to take from me. You don't get to know where I am. You don't get to know who's helping me. You don't get to know your child. Not until you become a man worthy of a father. His chest constricted painfully. He felt something, a sensation he wasn't familiar with, pressing against his ribs. Fear? Loss? Regret? He didn't know. The letter ended with one final line. This isn't revenge. This is freedom. Harper. Lucas lowered the paper slowly. The nursery around him blurred. The crib. The empty walls. The silence. Everything suddenly felt unbearably real. She wasn't just gone. She had dismantled the entire foundation of his control. Lucas staggered backward, gripping the doorframe. His voice cracked as he whispered into the empty room. Harper, what did you do? Lucas sank onto the edge of the crib, Harper's letter still trembling between his fingers. For a man who lived his life through numbers, projections, and controlled risk, nothing in this situation made sense. He wasn't losing control, no. That had already happened. This was the moment he finally noticed. He forced himself to stand. Sitting felt too vulnerable, too exposed. He needed clarity, logic, a plan. But the penthouse felt wrong now, like the walls themselves were rejecting him. Every corner seemed to echo Harper's absence. He walked into the kitchen again, pacing like a trapped animal. He opened cabinets empty. He yanked the fridge door, bare shelves stared back at him. It was like she had peeled her life away piece by piece. Under the counter light, the financial documents she left behind drew his eye again. He didn't want to touch them, but his fingers moved before his mind approved. The printouts were in perfectly ordered stacks, labeled in her handwriting. Account 14B. Unauthorized transfers. Expense reports. Contradicting statements. Corporate card. Duplicate entries. Lucas felt a cold sweat prick his neck. This wasn't guesswork. It wasn't emotional paranoia. Harper had evidence. He slammed the papers back down, heart hammering. She couldn't legally use these, could she? They were private, confidential. She wasn't supposed to have access, but intent didn't matter. Perception did. And if the wrong person saw these, if the board saw these, his entire career could evaporate overnight. He pressed his palms to the counter, breathing through teeth. No, she wouldn't do this. But even he didn't believe that anymore. He stormed into his office. The flash drive still sat on his desk, its black casing quiet and menacing. He snatched it up and jammed it into his laptop. A folder appeared. Open Me. He clicked it and froze. Inside was a video file. Time-stamped 2 weeks earlier, the thumbnail showed the nursery, dimly lit. With a shaking hand, he pressed play. Harper's voice filled the speakers soft, steady, unbearably tired. If you're hearing this, Lucas, it means I finally chose myself. He felt the air leave his lungs. The camera captured Harper sitting in the rocking chair, hands folded over her stomach. I begged you to see me, to hear me, to treat me like a partner, but you couldn't, or you wouldn't. Her voice wasn't angry. That made it worse. I didn't want to leave. I wanted a husband, a family, a home, and you made sure I had none of those. Lucas gripped the desk until his knuckles whitened. So I recorded everything. Your calls, your late-night meetings, your threats about money, not for revenge, but because people like you only understand consequences. His stomach twisted violently. The video ended with one final line before fading to black. You taught me survival. Now you get to learn loss. 2000. Lucas closed the laptop so fast it nearly snapped. His breath shook. His chest ached. He dragged a hand through his hair, pacing the room like a man possessed. He needed answers. He needed Harper back. He needed this fixed before someone else found the truth. Before the board. Before the company. Before Brooke. He grabbed his phone, dialing Harper's number again. Straight to voicemail. Disconnected. Then, a chime. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Ellison, we need to discuss your wife's departure. I'll be contacting you again shortly. No name. No number to call back. Lucas's heart dropped. Someone was helping her. Someone powerful. And whoever they were coming for him next. While Lucas spiraled inside the penthouse, Harper Ellison was sitting alone in a small, dimly lit corner of a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city, far from Manhattan's glitter, far from his reach. She clutched a warm cup of decaf tea between her trembling hands, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. But the storm had lived there too long to quiet easily. Her body was exhausted. 6 months pregnant, running on fractured sleep and months of emotional strain, Harper felt every heartbeat like a bruise. But she also felt something she hadn't known in years. Air. Space. A life without walking on fragile glass. Her duffel bag sat under the table, packed with the few things she owned that he hadn't controlled. Clothes, prenatal vitamins, the maternity journal she hid behind the cleaning supplies, her broken iPad, and a folder thick with printed evidence she had collected in silence. She rubbed her stomach gently. "Baby, we're okay," she whispered, though her voice cracked on the final word. Were they? She didn't know, but she knew they were safer than they had been last night. The cafe door chimed, and Harper stiffened, instinctively pulling her hood lower. She wasn't afraid Lucas would show up. He wasn't the type to drive around searching for her. He preferred control from a distance, preferred damage delivered through finances, through words, through decisions that cornered her without ever touching her. No, she wasn't afraid of him appearing. She was afraid of what would happen when he realized she was gone. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown contact. Arrived. Outside. Ready when you are. Her throat tightened. It was time. She stood, wincing from the pressure on her lower back, and stepped out into the cool night. A black sedan waited by the curb. Not flashy, not expensive, practical, safe. A man stepped out, a tall figure with graying hair, a coat that had seen years of use, not wealth. Mr. Rowan. Nathan Cole's most trusted assistant, and the only person she had contacted for help. He opened the back door for her. "Miss Ellison, let's get you somewhere comfortable." Her heart stung at the name. Ellison, a name she no longer wanted but couldn't yet escape. She settled into the back seat, and the car pulled away. The city lights blurred past, but Harper stared ahead, jaw clenched, one hand resting protectively over her belly. "Does he know?" she asked quietly. "Mr. Cole?" Rowan glanced in the mirror. "Yes, and he wants you to rest. You'll be safe at the property." The property. A soft way of describing a private house Nathan owned outside the city, a place no one knew about, a place Lucas couldn't trace, even with all his digital control. She exhaled shakily. "Thank you." Rowan nodded. "He said you'd say that, told me to remind you that you earned this safety. He owes you more than you realize." Harper stared out the window again, her eyes burning. She didn't want payment. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want a billionaire kneeling at her door. She wanted peace. She wanted her child to have a future that wasn't built on fear. But beneath that desire was a deeper truth, one she wasn't ready to say out loud. She wanted Lucas to finally understand what he had destroyed. She wanted the world to stop calling her fragile, dramatic, emotional. She wanted someone, anyone, to see her worth. As Manhattan disappeared behind her, Harper let her eyes drift closed. For the first time in years, she didn't fall asleep afraid. And she didn't know yet that Nathan Cole was about to change not just her safety, but her entire fate. Harper had always believed betrayal happened in one explosive moment, a confession, a caught-in-the-act scene, a dramatic unraveling. But in reality, it seeped in slowly, quietly, like water under a locked door, soaking everything before she even realized she was drowning. It started months ago, on an ordinary Tuesday. She was searching Lucas's suit jacket for a receipt, nothing unusual when a faint scent hit her. Floral. Sweet. Something expensive and unmistakably unfamiliar. Not her perfume. Not any perfume she owned. Her stomach tightened. She reached into the pocket and pulled out a room key. Ritz-Carlton. A single night, a single room, a single explanation. Her heart didn't shatter then. It simply cracked. When she confronted him that night, her voice trembling, Lucas didn't deny it. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Harper, you're pregnant, not dying. Don't turn hormonal imagination into drama." She had stood there barefoot in the kitchen, one hand on her belly, shaking not because he cheated, but because he thought she wouldn't leave, because he believed she couldn't. And that belief grew bolder. His texts became secretive. His late meetings became overnight absences. His patience thinned, his temper sharpened, his humiliation tactics increased. One night, after a doctor's appointment he forgot to attend, Harper walked into his office to ask a simple question about their insurance coverage. Lucas spun around, furious she'd interrupted a video call, and slammed her iPad to the floor. It cracked open, like something symbolic. Later that night, while picking up the pieces, she noticed something. In the reflection of the shattered screen, a notification blinked on his laptop. A bank transfer, $42,000. Categorized as consultant stipend, PR development. Except Harper knew Brooke's name was linked to that department. The transfers continued weekly. Regular, concealed, increasing. That was the moment the betrayal truly began. She didn't yell. She didn't confront him. She didn't even cry. She planned. Harper learned his passwords by watching the reflection in his glasses. She pulled files from his trash folders. She photographed receipts, captured screenshots, recorded calls, small things, quiet things, things Lucas never noticed because he no longer looked at her long enough to see anything. She hid everything inside one of the least likely places, the baby crib. Beneath the mattress, taped flat, she stored printed evidence, a flash drive and a notebook documenting every lie. And then came the night she realized she had to leave. Lucas came home late again, smelling of Brooke's perfume. Harper stood in the hallway, exhausted after a prenatal appointment she'd gone to alone. When she told him the doctor recommended she avoid stress, Lucas scoffed. "Stress?" he said. "You don't even work." "Do you know what stress is, Harper? Stress is carrying a company, not carrying a baby." She felt something inside her collapse, not her heart, not her hope, just the last piece of dignity she'd held onto. That night, she recorded her message in the nursery. She told the camera everything she couldn't tell Lucas anymore. The exhaustion, the fear, the loneliness, the truth. And then she called the only person she believed might listen, Nathan Cole. Years ago, she saved his entire penthouse renovation when the project manager quit. She never charged him for overtime. He never forgot. When he answered, his voice was gentle. "Harper, what's wrong?" She broke for the first time in months. By sunrise, everything would be in motion. Her escape, her rebirth, her fight. The betrayal wasn't the moment she found out Lucas cheated. It was every moment afterward when he expected her to stay. 3 days before she vanished, Harper Ellison sat alone at the small marble kitchen island, the one Lucas insisted on installing because it photographed well. The penthouse was dark except for the glow of her battered MacBook Air, the only device Lucas hadn't bothered to track because he assumed she was too naive to use it for anything important. Outside, Manhattan glittered like a life she no longer belonged to. Her tea had gone cold. Her hands were shaking. Her baby kept shifting gently, as if sensing her unrest. It was 3:17 a.m. when she finally opened a new email draft. The cursor blinked at her, soft and patient, waiting for courage she wasn't sure she had. She typed one name, Nathan Cole. Her throat tightened. She hadn't spoken to him in nearly 4 years. Back when she worked as an interior architect, Harper had saved one of his hotel renovation projects after a disastrous contractor walkout. She put in 80 hours in 5 days. He thanked her quietly, paid her generously, told her she had an eye for design that could build empires. Then she married Lucas, and the rest of her life shrank. Now, shaking but determined, Harper began typing. "Nathan, I know this is unexpected. I wouldn't reach out if it weren't urgent. I need help more than I've ever needed it. and there's no one else I can trust. Her breath caught. She hesitated but kept typing. I'm leaving Lucas. I have evidence he may use against me, or worse, evidence that could destroy him if it reaches the wrong hands. I don't want revenge. I just want to survive. I'm pregnant, and I'm scared. If you can help me disappear for a while, I would be grateful in ways I cannot express. Harper. When she hit send, a tremor ran through her. It wasn't fear. It was release. Minutes later, she closed the laptop and pressed both hands against her face, shoulders shaking from months of suppressed emotion. She hadn't cried in front of Lucas in years. He called tears a manipulation tool. But tonight, in the quiet of the penthouse, she let herself break. She didn't know Nathan would respond. She didn't expect him to. So when her phone buzzed at 3:26 a.m., she nearly dropped it. Nathan Cole, where are you? Tell me the truth. I'll take care of the rest. Her breath stuttered. Another message followed. I'm sending someone I trust. Pack what matters. Leave everything else. Harper stared at the messages, hands trembling so violently she had to set the phone down. Relief hit her with such force it almost hurt. Someone believed her. Someone cared enough to act immediately. Someone finally saw her. She whispered into the empty kitchen, "Thank you." It sevened. For the next hour, she moved through the penthouse in silence, packing her life with careful precision. Each item she chose felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Her prenatal journal, her sketchbook of designs she never showed Lucas, the ultrasound photo he forgot to attend the appointment for, the comfortable shoes she bought with her first paycheck years ago. Every item held meaning. Every item was hers, not his. By sunrise, 2 bags sat by the door. The crib held her letter. The flash drive was hidden exactly where only Lucas would eventually find it. She walked through each room one last time, not for nostalgia, but for closure. She wasn't escaping. She was ending something. At 5:41 a.m., the doorbell chimed once. Rowan stood on the other side, calm and steady. "Miss Ellison," he said softly, "we're ready whenever you are." Harper looked back at the penthouse, the prison she once called home. Then she stepped forward. Into a new life. Into a new identity. Into the first decision she made purely for herself. Rowan drove with the calm precision of a man who had handled crises far larger than this, but Harper's heartbeat thudded loud in her ears. Every mile placed more distance between her and the life that had swallowed her whole. She pressed her forehead against the cool window glass, watching the Manhattan skyline fade like a bad memory being erased. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice soft but steady. Rowan didn't look back. "A safe house owned by Mr. Cole, not registered under his name. Nobody will find you there, not your husband, not anyone working for him." She nodded, relieved but also afraid of the unknown. 40 minutes later, the car turned down a quiet road lined with tall pines and private estates hidden behind black iron gates. The sedan slowed before one of them, the gate sliding open as though expecting her. Harper's breath caught. She had never been inside wealth that felt gentle. The property was large but understated. Warm lights, stone pathways, soft landscaping, instead of aggressive displays of power. It felt like the opposite of Lucas's cold penthouse, where everything was meant to impress instead of comfort. When the car stopped, Rowan stepped out first and opened her door with a small nod. "You're safe here." Safe. She wasn't used to that word. Inside, the home smelled faintly of cedar and fresh linens. The foyer opened into a spacious, softly lit living room. And standing in the center of it, hands in pockets, expression unreadable, was Nathan Cole. Harper froze. He looked older than she remembered, a little more silver at his temples, but the same quiet strength was there, the same steadiness that once anchored entire teams during impossible deadlines. "Harper," he said gently. Her chest tightened. She hadn't expected him to greet her personally. She certainly hadn't expected the warmth in his eyes. "Mr. Cole," she whispered. "Nathan," he corrected with a tight smile. "You're not my employee anymore, and even if you were, you earned the right to use my name years ago." Emotion pricked behind her eyes. He stepped closer, stopping several feet away, far enough to give her space, close enough for her to feel supported. "You did the right thing leaving," Nathan said quietly. "A woman shouldn't have to stay anywhere she isn't respected." And 40. Her throat trembled. I didn't know who else to call. "I know," he replied, "and that's why I came." He motioned Rowan toward the hallway. "Get her settled. The east bedroom. Everything should be ready." Rowan nodded and moved to take her bag, but Harper shook her head. "I can carry it," she murmured instinctively. Rowan didn't argue. He simply stepped aside. That alone made her want to cry. As she followed him down the hall, Nathan's voice stopped her. "Harper." She turned. "You're not a burden," he said softly. "Not to me, not to anyone here. Whatever Lucas told you, whatever he made you believe, leave it at the door." Her breath hitched, and she nodded quickly before any tears could fall. Inside the bedroom, everything was warm, inviting. A soft cream comforter, a rocking chair by the window, a small table with herbal teas, and a pitcher of water. A gesture that felt strangely intimate, not romantic, but deeply human. Someone had thought of her comfort. Someone cared. Harper lowered herself into the rocking chair, one hand on her belly, and for the first time, she allowed herself to whisper, "I'm free." She didn't know Nathan was lingering just outside the doorway, quietly making a promise to himself that her freedom would never be taken again. Back in Manhattan, Lucas Ellison stormed through the penthouse like a man tearing apart his own sanity. Every shadow felt deliberate. Every empty drawer felt mocking. Harper hadn't just left. She'd departed with the precision of someone who'd spent months studying the architecture of escape. It infuriated him. By morning, he had called every contact in his phone, friends, acquaintances, staff, even his driver. No one had seen her. No one had heard anything. Her digital footprint was wiped clean. Her cards were frozen. Her email locked. Her number disconnected. It was as if Harper Ellison had dissolved into thin air. He paced in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretching below him like a kingdom he once ruled. But instead of power, all he felt was the sting of losing control, of being outplayed by the one woman he believed was too soft, too gentle, too breakable to ever challenge him. How far could she have gone? He muttered. She's pregnant. She has no money, no car, no friends. But even as he said it, a sliver of doubt slid under his ribs. Harper had outmaneuvered him. If she could leave him, she could do anything. The buzzer rang. Lucas nearly lunged at the intercom. "Delivery for Mr. Ellison." He frowned. He wasn't expecting anything. Still, he allowed the courier up. A few minutes later, a plain cardboard envelope sat in his hands. No return address, no markings, no names. Inside was a single object, Harper's medical insurance card, and a one-sentence note typed in bold black letters. "She is protected now. Do not attempt to follow her. Razet." His pulse spiked. Protected? By whom? A lawyer? A friend? No, she didn't have anyone with that kind of reach. Unless... A voice whispered inside his mind. "Someone will contact you?" The line from her letter looped again and again. He ripped the note in half and threw it on the table, breath ragged. No one threatened Lucas Ellison. No one controlled him. He grabbed his keys. He needed answers. He'd go to her OBGYN, demand information, force a trail. But when he reached the private clinic, the receptionist stiffened. "Mr. Ellison, we received a notification early this morning. Mrs. Ellison has transferred her records. Permanently." He blinked. "What? To where?" "I'm not authorized to disclose that. I'm her husband." The woman looked at him, really looked, and stepped back slightly. "Not anymore, sir." A cold rush shot down his spine. He turned, storming out of the building, nearly crashing into pedestrians on the sidewalk. The city around him suddenly felt too loud, too bright, too indifferent. When he shoved open the penthouse door again, another surprise awaited him. His assistant, Claire, stood inside pale, shaking. "Lucas, the board called an emergency audit. They want you in the office at 3 p.m. His stomach dropped. "What audit?" She swallowed. Someone sent them documents. About the transfers, the inconsistencies, the personal expenses. Lucas's blood ran cold. Harper. It had to be Harper. Claire continued quietly. "They said the package arrived anonymously." A chill crawled up his spine. Anonymous. Not from Harper. Not from anyone on his radar. Someone else was pulling the strings. Someone with resources. Someone with motive. Someone helping her disappear. He sank into the nearest chair, vision tunneling. Harper hadn't vanished because she was weak. She vanished because she was protected. And whoever had stepped into her life, was powerful enough to bring his entire world crashing down. The boardroom summons sat on the table like a silent threat. Lucas paced the penthouse, fingers threading through his hair as if he could pull the growing panic out of his skull. He had been audited before routine checks, minor corrections, inconvenient questions. But this felt coordinated, intentional, surgical. He snatched up the financial packet Harper had left behind, flipping through the pages in a frenzy. The numbers looked different now, not like accusations, like traps. Numbers only someone watching closely would notice. Harper had been watching him. His chest tightened. He had underestimated her. For years, he believed her softness meant blindness, her gentleness meant ignorance, her silence meant weakness. He didn't realize silence was the best environment for observation. He shoved the papers aside and marched to his office, powering up his work laptop. He needed to see exactly what the board might have. But before he could type his password, his phone buzzed. A message from another unknown number. "She is safe. You should worry about yourself now." Lucas's stomach twisted. He responded instantly. "Who are you?" No reply. He typed again. "Where is she?" Silence. A tremor touched his hands. He hated that. He wasn't a man who trembled, but everything around him was slipping like sand through his fingers. He stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair, and paced the office. He grabbed his suit jacket. "Fine," he muttered. "If she wants war, she picked the wrong man." But even he knew this wasn't Harper's war. This was something bigger. When he arrived at his office tower on Park Avenue, he felt the shift in the air the moment he stepped through the glass doors. The receptionist avoided his eyes. His assistant whispered nervously to another employee. 2 executives passed him without greeting. Something was wrong. Claire hurried up beside him. "Lucas, the audit team. They're not from your company." He stopped walking. "What does that mean?" "They're external, brought in overnight, very high level." Her voice shook. "This is serious." He felt his pulse spike. Serious wasn't a word Claire used lightly. The audit team sat in the conference room. 3 men, 2 women, laptops open, badges displayed. Government-backed. Not internal investigators. Not corporate. Bigger. Much bigger. Mr. Ellison, the lead auditor, nodded. "Sit down." He forced his expression neutral and took a seat. "Several discrepancies were flagged in your expense reports," the auditor began. "Hotel stays, unexplained transfers, duplicate invoices, personal expenditures under corporate accounts. I have 4. Lucas kept his jaw clenched. "I can explain." "You don't need to explain yet," the auditor cut in. "We've been provided documentation by an external party. Very detailed documentation." His heart hammered. "An external party?" he repeated slowly. The auditor clicked a remote, and a series of screenshots appeared on the screen. Bank transfers, credit card records, calendar logs, all the things Harper had collected. Lucas's mouth went dry. "We want to understand how these documents were obtained," the auditor said, "and why they appear to be accurate." He swallowed hard. "May I ask," he forced out, "who sent this material to you?" The auditor studied him, expression unreadable. "They requested anonymity. But they seem to know you very well." A cold weight dropped into Lucas's stomach. This wasn't Harper. She didn't have this kind of reach. This level of strategic pressure. Someone else was behind this. Someone protecting her. Someone powerful enough to pull federal-level auditors into his life within hours. For the first time since the nightmare began, Lucas felt something he had never allowed himself to feel. Helpless. He had no leverage. No control. No idea who was orchestrating this downfall. But one truth became painfully clear as the auditors waited for his answer. Harper wasn't the victim anymore. She was the catalyst. And Lucas was the man finally paying the price. While Lucas sat under fluorescent lights being dismantled by auditors, Harper Ellison opened her eyes in a room filled with morning calm. Soft gold sunlight filtered through sheer curtains, warming the edges of the cream comforter draped over her legs. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. For a moment, her body forgot to fear. Then the realization settled gently. She was safe. Not controlled. Not monitored. Not diminished. Safe. Her hand instinctively slid to her belly. The baby kicked lightly, as if agreeing. The door opened slowly and Rowan stepped inside, carrying a tray. "Good morning, Miss Ellison." "I brought breakfast." Doctor approved. She blinked. You have a doctor here? Of course, Rowan replied calmly. Mr. Cole arranged a private physician to visit twice a week, and a therapist, if you want one. There's also a prenatal yoga instructor available. Harper laughed softly, surprised at the sound coming from her own mouth. I don't need all that. Example. Rowan gave her a gentle look. You deserve all that. Her throat tightened. Deserve. It wasn't a word she associated with herself. Not anymore. After eating, Harper walked through the house with slow, cautious steps. Everything felt thoughtfully placed: fresh flowers, clean linens, sunlight falling across wood floors in soft patterns. It was the opposite of Lucas's penthouse, where perfection was designed for photographs, not for living. Here, nothing demanded, nothing criticized, nothing judged. In the living room, she found a small shelf containing books Nathan must have chosen himself. Atomic Habits, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck *, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and a few design journals. Her eyes lingered on the last one. She hadn't touched a design book in years, not since Lucas told her her little hobby couldn't pay rent. She reached out and traced the spine with her fingertips, a small ache blooming in her chest. Do you still design? A quiet voice asked behind her. She spun around, startled. Nathan stood in the doorway, hands in pockets, posture relaxed. He wasn't wearing a suit today, only a soft gray sweater and dark jeans. Even dressed down, he carried that same unspoken authority, the kind that came from real confidence, not performance. Harper shook her head. Not anymore. He stepped farther into the room. Why not? She gave a weak shrug. Life happened. Ike Spence. Nathan studied her for a moment, not with pity, never pity, but with recognition. Life didn't happen, Harper. Lucas happened. Her breath caught. Nathan softened his tone. You were talented. Still are. Some people spend a decade trying to see the world the way you naturally do. Her voice trembled. Lucas said I wasn't practical. Lucas says whatever keeps him in control, Nathan replied firmly. That doesn't make it true. His certainty unsettled her. Not because it frightened her, but because she wasn't used to being believed. Nathan glanced toward her belly. You're building a life now, not just for your child, for yourself. And when you're ready, I'd like to give you a space to design again. No pressure, no deadlines, just permission. Tears burned behind her eyes. Why are you doing all this for me? Nathan hesitated, then spoke with quiet sincerity. Because when everyone else treated me like a failure, you didn't. You didn't demand anything, you just helped. And I don't forget people like that. Harper lowered her gaze, overwhelmed. Rest today, Nathan added gently. Tomorrow we talk next steps, but for now, breathe. When he left, Harper sank onto the couch. Her heart felt heavy and light at the same time. For the first time in years, the future wasn't a threat. It was a door, and she was finally allowed to open it. 3 weeks after Harper disappeared from Manhattan, Lucas Ellison walked into the 47th floor boardroom of Ellison Caldwell Developments with the swagger of a man determined to reclaim his narrative. He wore his sharpest suit, adjusted his tie, and practiced a confident smirk in the mirrored elevator doors. Today was the day he would prove the audit was nothing but a misunderstanding. He would charm the room, spin the numbers, regain control. But the moment he stepped inside, something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. The board members were already seated too early, too composed, too silent. Their faces were unreadable. And at the head of the table sat a man Lucas did not expect. Nathan Cole. Lucas froze mid-step. Nathan stood, buttoning his jacket with controlled ease, the kind of ease reserved for men who never lost. Mr. Ellison. Lucas blinked, disoriented. Nathan? What are you doing here? I was invited, Nathan replied calmly. Your board reached out when financial irregularities surfaced. They wanted an external consultant for restructuring. That word restructuring made Lucas's skin crawl. Nathan didn't sit down yet. He stepped aside slightly, giving Lucas a clear view of the presentation screen behind him. The first slide stopped Lucas's breath. Project lead. Ellison Caldwell Renovation Initiative. Architectural director. Harper Ellison. A ringing filled Lucas's ears. No, he whispered. No, she can't. That's impossible. Nathan tilted his head. Your wife is exceptionally talented. When the board reviewed her past work and what she quietly submitted last week, they were impressed. Submitted? Lucas snapped. She hasn't worked in years. She has no authority to. She has more authority than you think, Nathan interrupted, voice low but firm. Especially after what she gave them. Lucas knew what he meant. The evidence, the transfers, the documentation she'd collected with terrifying precision. The board chair cleared his throat. Mr. Ellison, we reviewed the files your wife provided. They contain serious violations of company policy and fiduciary responsibility. Lucas's stomach twisted. You're believing her over me? No, the chair corrected calmly. We're believing the numbers. Nathan stepped closer, his voice lowering just enough for Lucas to feel cornered. This meeting isn't about your marriage. It's about your misconduct. Lucas's jaw tightened. Where is she? Nathan's expression didn't change. Somewhere you'll never harm her again. Harm? Lucas scoffed. She's dramatic, emotional. She probably manipulated. Nathan leaned in slightly. Harper didn't manipulate anything. She survived you. The room went still. Lucas's hands curled into fists. He scanned the boardroom, searching for an ally, anyone but every face was cold, observing him like a specimen under a microscope. Then the door opened, quietly, softly, and Harper walked in. Lucas felt the ground tilt beneath him. She looked different. Not fragile, not tense, but steady, present, alive. Her maternity dress flowed gently, her posture straight, her eyes no longer clouded with fear. She didn't look at Lucas first. She looked at Nathan. He gave her a small nod of reassurance. Only then did she face her husband. Lucas's voice cracked. Harper, what are you doing here? She stepped to the table, placing a folder down with quiet confidence. Finishing what you started. Her voice didn't tremble. I didn't come to ruin you, Lucas. You did that yourself. A beat. I'm here so they understand the truth clearly. Lucas stared at her, this woman he never believed could stand against him. This wasn't the wife he left behind. This was someone rebuilt. Someone unbreakable. Harper slid the folder toward the board. These are the finalized designs for the restructuring project. I'll be overseeing it moving forward. Lucas felt heat rush to his face. You can't replace me. Nathan finally sat down. They already have. Allo. Lucas's world collapsed in slow motion. And Harper, standing in front of the room he once commanded, understood. This was the moment power shifted forever. For most of his life, Lucas Ellison had believed rooms bowed to him. Boardrooms, penthouses, luxury hotel suites, they all bent beneath his confidence, his ambition, his name. But in this room, in front of these faces, he felt something he had never encountered so completely. Irrelevance. Harper stood at the head of the table, her presence steady, controlled, almost serene. She hadn't raised her voice once. She hadn't directed anger at him. That somehow made everything worse. Her calmness was a verdict in itself. Harper, Lucas said again, desperate now, you don't understand what you're doing. You're not qualified to. She looked at him, and for the first time in their marriage, her eyes carried nothing for him. No affection, no fear, no longing. Not even hate, just clarity. I understand more than you think, she replied softly. I understand what you risked, what you hid, and what you sacrificed to protect your ego. The board murmured. Nathan remained silent, watching Lucas with the quiet patience of a man witnessing predictable consequences. Lucas stepped forward, voice cracking. You're being manipulated. He's filling your head with. Harper cut him off. No one is manipulating me. Her voice was soft, but final. I left because you already chose someone else long before you ever met her. Lucas opened his mouth, but no words formed. Harper continued, turning to the board. I'm not here to discuss our marriage. That ended the moment I realized he saw me as optional. Her tone didn't waver. I'm here because your company deserves transparency, and because the public deserves honesty. Lucas flinched. Nathan slid a document across the table. Mr. Ellison, this is a summary of the audit findings. You will have an opportunity to respond. Lucas snapped the folder open, scanning the first page, and his vision swam. Unauthorized transfers, misuse of corporate funds, conflict of interest violations, false reporting. Each bullet point was a nail in the coffin he didn't know he'd climbed into. This is exaggerated, he whispered. It's documented, Nathan replied calmly. Lucas looked at Harper, desperate once more. You did this to me? No, she said quietly. You did this. I simply stopped protecting you. The words hit harder than any accusation. Because deep down, he knew they were true. Panic clawed at his throat. He turned to the board. Listen, I can fix this. We don't need outside consultants. We don't need her involved. She's emotional. A board member cleared his throat sharply. Enough. Your wife has demonstrated more professionalism in 1 week than you have in months. Heat rushed up Lucas's neck. Nathan leaned back, arms folded. You still have the chance to act like a leader, Mr. Ellison. Or you can keep proving why she left. Lucas's chest heaved. She left because she's unstable. No. Nathan spoke calmly, but his voice landed with weight. She left because she finally realized her life was worth more than surviving yours. Silence fell over the room. Harper didn't look triumphant. She didn't smirk. She didn't revel. She simply existed in her truth, unshaken. Lucas felt the power shift like a physical force. All the authority he once commanded was now absorbed by two people standing across from him, one who had rebuilt herself, and one who had chosen to stand beside her. He stared at Harper, unable to breathe. So this is it? You're really done? Harper's expression softened, not with love, but with release. Yes, Lucas, I'm done. I stopped waiting for you to change. I stopped shrinking so you could feel bigger. She took a small step back, sealing the moment. And I stopped being afraid. There is forsted. Those words echoed off every wall. Lucas finally understood. He hadn't just lost her. He had lost the only version of himself who felt untouchable. And she was never coming back. Lucas Ellison left the boardroom furious, humiliated, and trembling beneath the weight of something he'd never carried before. Consequences. His steps echoed sharply down the hallway, each one louder than the last, anger rising like steam from boiling water. He needed control back. He needed Brooke. He needed someone, anyone, to remind him he still had power. He dialed Brooke's number as he entered the elevator. Baby, you won't believe what happened. Brooke cut him off, her voice cold, clipped, almost unrecognizable. Lucas, we need to talk. He blinked. Not now. I've had a hell of a morning. I need... No, she snapped. You don't understand. Someone came to see me. His blood chilled. Who? A man. Older. Said his name was Rowan. Her breath shook. He knew everything, Lucas. About us, about the money, about the transfers. He said your company is being audited, and he told me, she faltered, he told me to distance myself from you before things get worse. Lucas gripped the railing until his fingers throbbed. Brooke, listen to me, this is just a misunderstanding. A smear campaign. You can't actually believe. Lucas, she said sharply, cutting him off again. I didn't sign up for a criminal investigation. His mouth dried. Criminal. She had said criminal. I'm not a criminal, he insisted. You know me. I know what you told me, Brooke replied. But today someone showed me documents with your signature all over them. Transfers into my account. Do you have any idea what that makes me look like? Like someone I cared about. Lucas snapped. No, Brooke corrected. Like someone you used. Silence punched through the line. Brooke inhaled, shaky and controlled. I'm done, Lucas. I deleted everything. Don't contact me again. If Forange, Informas. Brooke, wait. But the line went dead. For the first time in years, Lucas staggered. He leaned against the elevator wall, chest heaving, humiliation pouring into him like ice water. Brooke had abandoned him. The board had turned on him. Harper, fragile, quiet. Harper had orchestrated the fall of everything he thought he controlled. A dull ringing filled his ears. He needed a drink. He needed a plan. He needed revenge. But what he really needed was a new ally, and he had none left. At the safe house, Harper sat at the breakfast table, reviewing project notes Nathan had provided. The soft hum of the kettle filled the quiet room. She felt calm, grounded, like a version of herself she barely remembered. Rowan entered with a small folder. Update from Manhattan? Harper nodded, bracing herself. Tell me. Rowan set the folder down gently. The board has removed Lucas from all financial oversight, effective immediately. Her breath came out slow, steady, not triumphant, just relieved. He's also been placed under temporary suspension, Rowan added. And the woman he was involved with, she's no longer in the picture. Harper blinked. Brooke left him? Yes. A strange mixture of emotions washed over her sadness. Justice, closure, not vengeance, just truth settling into its rightful place. Rowan continued, "There's more. The investigation will move quickly. Mr. Cole is ensuring you stay protected." Harper looked down at her hands. "I never wanted to destroy his life." "You didn't," Rowan replied gently. "He did." She swallowed, her throat tightening. "Harper," Rowan said softly, "men like Lucas believe silence means weakness. You proved silence can also mean gathering strength." Her lashes lowered. "Is he okay?" Rowan paused. "He's unraveling." Harper closed her eyes. It wasn't joy she felt. It wasn't triumph. It was release. For the first time in years, Lucas was facing his own reflection. And she didn't have to carry the weight of it anymore. Lucas Ellison had spent years sculpting his image into something immaculate: tailored suits, flawless spreadsheets, the illusion of discipline and brilliance. But that afternoon, as he stepped back inside his penthouse after the board meeting, something felt undeniably different. The silence didn't respect him anymore. It mocked him. His phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "Effective immediately, the board has frozen your company accounts. IT is removing your login access." Lucas's chest tightened. He dialed her instantly. "Claire, what the hell is going on? Frozen accounts? Who authorized this?" "Lucas." Her voice trembled. "The board. They've also voted to initiate termination proceedings. It's official." "Termination? You can't be serious." "One to Tenet." But she hung up, not abruptly, not rudely, just with the exhaustion of someone who no longer owed him loyalty. Lucas stared at his dark phone screen, breathing unevenly. Everything was slipping. He stumbled toward the bar cart, pouring whiskey with shaking hands. The glass clinked against the counter. He never trembled like this. Never. But the world had tilted, and he was losing his balance. He reached for the remote, needing noise, something to drown out the truth, but the penthouse speakers chimed with a notification. "Your access to the system has been revoked." He let out a strangled sound, half fury, half disbelief. He had built this life, this penthouse, this power, and now it was dissolving faster than he could process. He downed the whiskey, then another, and another. But even alcohol couldn't blur the anxiety clawing inside his chest. He staggered to his desk, powering on his personal laptop. If he could just move some money, hide some files, regain control. The screen flashed red. Account locked. Access revoked. He slammed the laptop shut with a roar. "Harper," he hissed through clenched teeth. "What did you do to me?" But even his anger sounded hollow. Because deep down, he knew. Harper didn't tear his career apart. She simply exposed the wreckage he'd built himself. He paced the room, tugging at his tie until it nearly ripped. He tried calling Brooke again. Straight to voicemail. He tried calling old colleagues. No answer. He tried calling his father. Declined. Every door that once opened for him now slammed shut. Finally, he sank onto the edge of the sofa, gripping his head. His breathing grew shallow, frantic. The room spun around him. He wasn't in control anymore. He wasn't admired. He wasn't feared. He was alone. A sharp knock jolted him upright. He stumbled to the door, half expecting police, half expecting auditors, half expecting he didn't know. When he opened it, a building manager stood there, accompanied by a uniformed security guard. "Mr. Ellison," the manager said carefully, "I'm afraid corporate has instructed us to notify you. Your housing stipend has been suspended. The penthouse is no longer under your lease." Lucas blinked, uncomprehending. "What? You can't evict me. This is my home." End quote. "I'm sorry, sir. You have 72 hours to vacate." The papers were handed to him. Legal, stamped, final. He stared at them, unable to breathe. His job gone. His reputation poisoned. His mistress gone. His wife gone. His child lost to him. Now even his home, a symbol of his power, was ripped away. The manager added quietly, "You should call someone, Mr. Ellison." Lucas laughed, sharp, cold, broken. "There's no one left to call." 8. He shut the door slowly, leaning his back against it, sinking to the floor as the truth finally crushed him. For the first time in his life, Lucas Ellison understood what it meant to be powerless. And he had no one to blame but himself. The morning Harper went into labor arrived quietly, no dramatic pain, no panic, just a soft tightening in her abdomen, While she sat near the window of the safe house, sketching designs for a boutique hotel Nathan had invited her to collaborate on. She paused, one hand drifting to her belly, another tightening. This one's stronger. She inhaled slowly. Okay, little one, I hear you. Rowan found her minutes later, pale but calm, and immediately called the private physician. Within half an hour, the quiet estate transformed into a soft flurry of movement. Medical bags, warm towels, murmured instructions, but none of it felt frightening. For the first time in her pregnancy, Harper was surrounded not by scrutiny, but by care. Nathan arrived just as the contractions strengthened. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, worry flickering across his composed expression. "Harper," he said gently, "you're sure you don't want to go to the hospital?" She shook her head. "The doctor said everything looks stable, and I don't want to risk Lucas showing up if records get flagged." A shadow crossed Nathan's face. "He won't find you. Not now. Not ever." The certainty in his voice steadied her breath. Hours passed. Pain ebbed and surged, but the room stayed warm and quiet. Nathan remained close, stepping out only when the medical team needed space. Whenever she grew scared, she pictured Lucas in that empty penthouse, surrounded by everything he destroyed. And then she pictured the small life inside her, waiting to enter a world where love, not fear, would greet them first. At 3:42 p.m., her daughter arrived. Small, pink. Crying with a strength Harper didn't know babies possessed. The moment the tiny body was placed on her chest, Harper broke softly, silently, beautifully. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but not from pain. From relief, from gratitude, from the profound truth that she had survived something meant to crush her. "You're safe now," she whispered into the newborn's hair. "I promise, you're safe." The doctor stepped out to give her a moment. Nathan hovered in the doorway, respectfully distant, but his eyes were warm, almost reverent. Harper looked up at him, exhausted yet glowing. "Do you want to meet her?" she asked softly. Nathan hesitated, as if unsure he deserved the honor. Then he approached, moving with careful steps. When he reached the bedside, Harper lifted the small bundle slightly. "This is Ava," she said. "Ava Grace." Nathan's features softened in a way she'd never seen before. He touched the baby's tiny hand, careful, as if she were made of glass. "She's perfect," he murmured. Harper swallowed a trembling breath. "Thank you for everything you've done. I don't think I would have survived without your help." Nathan shook his head. "You would have survived. You already did. I just made sure the world didn't get in your way." She held his gaze, really held it for the first time since arriving at the safe house. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not obligation, recognition. Two lives intersecting at a moment that changed them both. Later that night, as Harper rocked Ava gently in the quiet of her new room, Rowan knocked softly. "There's news," he said. Harper tensed. "Lucas?" Rowan nodded. "He's been officially removed from the company, and he tried to contact you through legal channels." Her stomach tightened, but Rowan continued before panic could rise. "We blocked everything. You owe him nothing." Harper exhaled slowly. Ava shifted in her arms, peaceful. She looked down at her daughter and smiled softly. For the first time in her life, Harper wasn't living in reaction to Lucas's choices. She was living in honor of her own. Lucas Ellison sat alone on a park bench overlooking the East River, the wind cutting through his thin jacket. A month ago, he would have worn cashmere, designer wool, something that announced his status before he even spoke. Today, he wore whatever he'd managed to grab from the penthouse before security escorted him out. The city that once bowed for him now moved around him without noticing he existed. His phone, now paid on a prepaid plan, buzzed. A notification from an unknown number flashed on the cracked screen. "Your daughter has been born. She is healthy. You are not needed." No signature. No kindness. Just a fact, delivered with surgical precision. Lucas's breath tightened. A daughter. He hadn't even known the gender. He had missed the birth. Missed everything. He typed back with shaking fingers. "Where is Harper? I need to see her. Please." The reply arrived instantly. "You've lost that privilege. Accept it." A privilege, not a right. The word hollowed him out. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands gripping his skull. He didn't cry. Lucas Ellison didn't cry, but something in him trembled like a dam about to break. A stranger passed by, glancing at him briefly with mild pity. Lucas hated that even more than the silence. He pulled Harper's last letter from his pocket, the one he'd reread until the edges softened. Every line cut deeper, the more he accepted what it really was. Not anger, not revenge. Truth. A truth he had refused to see until it flattened him. You stopped respecting me. You made me small. You taught me survival, now you learn loss. Wisey. At the time, he'd dismissed her words as dramatic. Now they felt like prophecy. His phone buzzed again. This time, the message felt colder. A formal restraining order has been initiated. You will be contacted. Do not attempt anything further. He swallowed back bile. A restraining order. Against him. The man who once believed he controlled every avenue of Harper's life now couldn't legally stand within 500 feet of her. He squeezed his eyes shut. Everything he touched was slipping away. His job, his money, his penthouse, his reputation. And Harper, who once whispered, "I love you," into his chest, now had him legally barred from her world. His world. He deserved it. He knew that now. But knowing the truth didn't soften the blow, it sharpened it. Across the quiet estate, Harper held Ava close as she rocked gently in the nursery Nathan had prepared. The walls were soft ivory, the curtains pale, gray colors chosen not to impress but to soothe. It felt nothing like the cold, curated nursery Lucas once forced her to design for social media. Rowan stepped inside quietly. "Harper, there's an update." She stiffened. "Lucas?" "Yes." Rowan paused, compassionate but firm. "He tried to contact you. Repeatedly. We filed the restraining order." Harper exhaled slowly, eyes dropping to Ava's tiny face. "Is he okay?" Rowan hesitated. "He's unraveling." Harper's chest tightened, not with longing, not with pity, but with a quiet release. She had expected anger, triumph, even guilt. But all she felt was distance. She kissed Ava's forehead. "Good. Maybe now he'll understand." "Understand what?" Rowan asked. "That losing someone doesn't happen in a single moment," she whispered. "It happens quietly. The same way he lost me." She rocked Ava gently, the baby's breath soft and steady against her collarbone. Nathan appeared in the doorway then, watching mother and child with a quiet reverence that made Harper's heart throb with unexpected warmth. She wasn't just safe. She wasn't just free. She was building something new, something that didn't depend on anyone's approval. And Lucas? He was finally facing the truth he had avoided all his life. Some losses cannot be undone. Some consequences cannot be outsmarted. And some women do not return. 2 months after Ava's birth, the safe house had grown into something Harper never expected. A home. Not the kind defined by square footage or shimmering penthouse windows, but the kind built from softness, morning sunlight drifting through curtains. Rowan's steady presence, and the quiet hum of safety surrounding every room. But the biggest change was Nathan. He visited often not out of obligation, but with genuine intention. Each time he arrived, he brought something thoughtful. A set of drafting pencils, a soft blanket for Ava, architectural magazines she hadn't read in years. Small gestures, never intrusive, always gentle. On this particular morning, Harper found him in the sunroom, reviewing blueprints for the hotel project she'd secretly started sketching ideas for. Ava slept peacefully in a bassinet nearby, her tiny fists curled like blossoms. "You're early," Harper said softly as she approached. Nathan looked up, offering a quiet smile. "Your sketches are brilliant. I couldn't put them down." Her cheeks warmed. "You don't have to flatter me." "I don't," he replied. "I say what's true." She looked down, overwhelmed by emotions she wasn't ready to name. She hadn't healed completely. She wasn't sure she ever would. But Nathan's presence didn't demand healing. He simply made space for it. He gestured toward the chair opposite him. "Sit. I want to discuss something important. It's not Ava." Her stomach tightened, not in fear, but anticipation. Nathan folded his hands. "I've been thinking about the future of the project, and your role in it." "My role?" Harper echoed. He nodded. "You have vision. And the ability to lead quietly, gracefully. I want you as head designer. Officially." The breath left her lungs. "Nathan, I haven't worked in years." "You've worked more than you give yourself credit for," he said gently. You survived something heavy, and you still create beauty. That's leadership, Harper. Her eyes stung. He leaned slightly forward. This isn't charity, this is recognition. Tears gathered in her lashes. I never thought I'd get a second chance. Not after everything I let happen. Nathan's voice softened. You didn't let anything happen. You lived through it. She wiped her cheeks. Thank you. He hesitated, an uncharacteristic pause for a man who rarely faltered. There's more. Harper's heart fluttered. Nathan continued, I know you're still healing. I'm not asking anything of you that you're not ready for, but I want you to know something. Her breath caught. You and your daughter, he said quietly, have a place here. Not temporarily, not conditionally. A real place. The words wrapped around her like warmth. She blinked rapidly. Nathan, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, he murmured. Just live. Just breathe. Let your life be yours again. If your stomach. Ava stirred in her bassinet, and Harper instinctively lifted her, cradling the baby to her chest. Nathan watched with an expression Harper couldn't quite read, something tender, something protective. She felt her heart shift. Not toward romance, not yet, but toward trust, toward possibility, toward a future no longer defined by survival. Harper, Nathan said softly, when you're ready, I'd like to talk about what comes next. For all three of us. Her lips parted in surprise. Nathan, not today, he added quickly. Today is just a beginning. Harper looked down at Ava, then back at Nathan. For the first time, she didn't feel broken. She felt chosen, not owned, not controlled. Chosen. A future with dignity. A future with direction. A future she could shape with her own hands. And somewhere far away, in a cramped apartment he never wanted, Lucas Ellison had no idea. The woman he tried to bury was rising. 6 months after Harper Ellison walked out of the penthouse she once feared, her life looked nothing like the wreckage she escaped. The safe house had become a real home. The architectural project she led with Nathan was gaining recognition in industry circles. Ava was thriving, smiling, giggling, grasping her mother's fingers with surprising strength. And Harper, she had become someone she barely recognized. Not the silent woman who begged for scraps of affection. Not the shadow who apologized for taking up space. She was present, steady, rebuilt from the inside out. On a warm spring morning, Nathan arrived dressed simply, carrying a small envelope in his coat pocket. He smiled when he saw Harper standing by the garden with Ava tucked against her chest. Morning, he said softly. Morning, she replied. A breeze drifted through the trees. Nathan stepped closer, eyes gentle but filled with intention. Harper, there's something you should know. He handed her the envelope. She opened it carefully. Inside was a legal document, official, sealed, final. Her breath caught. Lucas's resignation and forfeiture of all parental claims. Signed, stamped, irrevocable. Her knees weakened. How? Why would he? Nathan met her eyes. He realized he had no path forward unless he admitted his wrongdoing. His lawyer approached us last week. Lucas agreed to give you full custody, no conditions, no access, no rights. Enter smash. Harper let out a breath. She didn't know she'd been holding a breath 6 years long, full of fear and disappointment. And, Nathan continued quietly, he chose to leave New York, permanently. The world stilled. She felt no triumph, no vindication, only peace deep, cleansing peace. He never deserved her, Harper whispered, brushing a thumb over Ava's cheek. No, Nathan replied gently, but you did, and she deserves you. Something warm unfurled in her chest. Nathan hesitated, then spoke, voice lower now. There's one more thing, and if you're not ready, tell me. I'll wait another year, or 10, or forever. Her heart thudded softly. Harper, he said, you and Ava have become part of my life, not by accident, not by obligation, because I choose you, both of you. He swallowed. If you're open to it, I'd like to build something real. Together. Tears welled in her eyes. She wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't shrinking. She wasn't begging. She was choosing. Nathan, I don't know if I can be what someone expects. I don't expect, he said gently. I respect. Her tears slipped free. She reached out, placing her hand over his. Then yes, she whispered, Let's choose each other. Carefully, slowly, but fully. For the first time since she left Lucas, her heart felt whole. On the other side of the city, far from the life he once commanded, Lucas Ellison signed a lease for a small studio apartment. No view, no prestige. Just four walls and the echo of choices he could no longer outrun. He stared at the final custody papers again. He had lost everything. Not because Harper destroyed him, but because he never valued what he had. And as he placed the pen down, he knew with crushing clarity. This was the life he earned. Months later, in a sunlit garden, Harper married Nathan in a small ceremony with only a few close friends. Not extravagant, not performative, beautiful in its simplicity. Nathan held Ava during the vows. Harper laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't escape. This was healing. A life rebuilt. A love chosen. A future deserved. And when Harper took Nathan's hand, she knew the truth. She did not just survive her past. She transcended it. So, our story has come to an end. And if you're still here, my friend, sitting with me in this moment, then something in Harper's journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it whispered a truth you've been avoiding. Or maybe, like Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Harper's story teaches us that healing isn't loud, freedom isn't dramatic, and dignity isn't something anyone can give you, it's something you reclaim when you finally choose yourself. Life will break you, yes, but as the Stoics believed, what breaks you also reveals you. And sometimes, the most painful endings become the most honest beginnings. If this story made you feel seen, understood, or just a little less alone, then stay with us. Like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to subscribe. Your presence here matters more than you know, and maybe, just maybe, this is the first step in your own healing.